And we're live, everybody. This is Dr. Schilling with this week's Wednesday Wellness Minutes from Secoya Health. And this week we're going to talk about meridians. Now, meridian sounds like a weird thing. Is that like the space between the highways, the meridian, median, whatever it is? No, it's actually superhighways of energy in your body. And they're very helpful because they can pretty much explain every symptom you have. Not quite that simple, but you can imagine as you learn here tonight, I'm going to spend a couple minutes on each meridian. It's not going to be a deep dive because, let's be honest, you could talk about each one of these for a couple days. First and foremost, everybody's favorite, the gallbladder meridian. Now, you can pretty much explain everything from ankle pain to knee pain to hip pain to abdominal pain, rib pain, between the shoulder blades, in the neck, on the side of the head. If you ever look up the gallbladder meridian, it's pretty intense as far as the level of surface area that it covers on the body and how it traces way down. So people that have pain across their hip here, that can be the gallbladder meridian. Now, it's not guaranteed to be that, but it's a good likelihood. Lateral knee stability, if your knee gets all wonky and you're having trouble stability-wise, if you have pain on the side of your leg, on the side of your foot, goes down into the third, well, there we go. Goes down on the side of your foot here, okay, your third toe, or fourth toe, your fourth toe, okay, on your foot. So it runs down the side, up the side of your leg, and then up here across, and this is where the gallbladder sort of sits. And the reason the Chinese named them that is not because it's dependent on that organ, but because that organ can get congested and can disrupt that whole area. That's a common problem. So what can affect the gallbladder? Sugars, fats, garbage from the liver, not detoxifying, anger, frustration, resentment, disappointments. Let's see what else. So most headaches can be based, or at least if you look at the gallbladder meridian and how it's a ram's horn on the side of the head, it literally comes up the neck and does a pattern like this and goes above the eye, behind the eye. It's on the side of the head. But a lot of people, when they have headaches, like it feels like it's stabbing the eye or it's behind the eye, I get this pressure here, it's my temple squeezing. It's literally coming from back here, most likely from your greater occipital nerve, which is being affected by the gallbladder meridian. Not a guarantee. There could be an anatomical issue with Arnold Chiari formation. One of our team members had a challenge with that, and she had surgery and didn't make any difference. Fascinating how that works. But at any rate, that's one thing that, one meridian that can cause challenges. And if you'd be so kind as to challenge, there you go. So liver meridian, as we talked, the liver dumps into the gallbladder, well, not into the gallbladder, but the liver dumps down a common bile duct, gallbladder is hanging off that, gallbladder receives all the bile from the liver, sucks the water off, makes super concentrated soap like for your greasy pans, and then when you eat fat in your body, your gallbladder squeezes that out. However, if your liver can't package all the toxins, can't process all the hormones in there, and then sends junk down the pipeway, that's going to affect the gallbladder. That's kind of what I was referring to now. Now that's going to be starting at where the liver is, and it's going to come across your abdomen, kind of this direction, and then it's going to travel down through the inside of the leg. And there's actually muscle tests for all of these, whether you're testing the spleen meridian, liver meridian, or kidney meridian. You can angle the legs in different positions to challenge the groin muscles. Because if there's stress in different meridians, you can actually test each one of them. That's how one of the differential diagnosis tools we use. That's a great one. The conception vessel, all right? So conception, of course, people think of procreation, which it's related to that, but it's not limited to that. So the conception vessel starts at your lower lip, and it travels right down your midline, and it goes down to the perineum. And so, anatomically speaking, it's at the very bottom of your body, okay? If you go underneath and the very bottom, that's where one of the points is, and then it wraps up. Now, one of the things I didn't mention is injuries that can affect these different meridians. So contusion, like an injury where you got hit really hard by something, like slipping off a bike seat and hitting the bar. Contusion to the chest can affect the conception vessel, but head injuries to the back of the head, side of the head can affect the gallbladder meridians, things like that. So don't assume that it's simply an internal issue. It can be an outside issue. It can be a structural impact, a trauma, and something like that. And therefore, when we think about the conception vessel, we can think about C-section scars, laparoscopic surgeries that go through the belly button, people that have lap band surgery, people with open heart surgeries, thyroid surgeries, women giving childbirth, men having prostate surgery, even the process of doing the biopsy for a prostate, for prostatitis and stuff like that, where they poke in there like a pincushion, that can cause interference fields, which you want to appreciate is you can sprain your ankle and it can reflex and cause you chronic headaches on the side of your head. as an example. You can twist your ankle on one side of your body and can cause heart palpitations. So these issues that are a distance away from the actual site, don't underestimate the power of a distant injury. Okay, something that you could have forgotten about. Oh, I rolled my ankle, twisted my ankle, fell out of a seat as a kid, something like that, hit your head. So on my conception vessel, on my lower lip, I have a scar here. When I was about 5, I was in the car with my mom, and we were driving through a parking lot, and somebody pulled out in front of us, and bam. And at that time, I had a massive overbite because I like to suck my thumb a lot. And as a result, I came forward, seatbelt caught me, wham, my teeth went right through my lips. I had a nice gaping hole right through my face. It was just gushing blood. It was pretty awesome. Not a memory I have real clear in my mind, but I had the scar to show it. But that can disrupt my conception vessel, the whole thing, because it starts here and goes down, as an example. Just keep that in mind. So injuries along that line, scars along that line can cause uterine issues, bladder issues, stomach issues, heart issues, thyroid issues, to name a few. Okay? Go ahead and switch the page. All right, so let's go with the governing vessel, which is in the opposite side. So that starts at your upper lip, right underneath where your gums are, wraps up the midline, around, back, goes right down your midline, and basically meets around the backside. So if you had like a loop around your body, you're basically looking at the governing vessel. Now, slips and falls on the tailbone, concussions to the front of the head, concussions to the back of the head, even just really hard traumas that don't result in concussions, subconcussive injuries as they're called, don't really hit the threshold to rock your brain into a concussion, but it's really traumatic. That can affect the governing vessel. Now, what's important on the governing vessel? Well, you got your pituitary, your hypothalamus, pineal gland's sort of in there because it's deeper in the brain, but GV20 up here, governing vessel 20 is a really common spot where we check people because all your energy flow from an energetic standpoint flows down, out, and around and back in. Back of the head, and then you go down to the bone mineral point. So if you have an injury on there, it can affect your bone minerals. So you can affect brain function, which is hormone function, which means it can limit your growth. Like kids that have failure to thrive or stunted growth, it can be because of an impact to their head that stunts their governing vessel and things like that, affects all their hormones. Slips and falls on the tailbone. Lord knows if you've lived in Minnesota any period of time or in western Wisconsin or anywhere it's snowy, you've probably slipped and fallen on your butt. As a result, you can have an injury to your tailbone or anywhere along that, and that can weaken your kidneys, can weaken your adrenals, and so on and so forth. That's an example. Let's see. Stomach meridian. So shin splints, right? I've had hundreds of people come in here and say, I got this pain right down the front of my shin, and it just burns. Okay? Stomach meridian runs right down your shin. Okay? Runs up the front of your thigh, juts across, and then comes up the midline where basically your stomach lies. Remember, the Chinese named them because organ systems are along those lines. Not because it's the end-all be-all, but just because that can affect it. So let's think about this. You can have an appendectomy surgery. People can have, well, not necessarily gallbladder. They usually go in through the belly button or somewhere. Sometimes they go right in, but not directly. But scars along there, twisting an ankle. So if you have in your, the pointer, in between like the pointer and the middle toe on your foot, right up the front of your leg, right up your shin bone, and then up the thigh is where you're going to find this challenge. So it can cause weakness in your quad, cramping in your quad, burning in your shin. Some signs of that affecting it might be, what would you call, acid reflux, indigestion, what else? A lot of things. Interestingly enough, when this meridian gets thrown off, anything that goes on in the stomach is one of the major parts of your digestive system. So your digestion starts in your mouth, and it also starts when your brain smells things, thinks about eating things, and stuff like that. But your stomach sets up the acidity level in your entire digestive system. So it can affect small intestine bacterial overgrowth, SIBO. It can affect dysbiosis in general. It can set you up for leaky gut and things like that. So an issue with the stomach meridian can have dramatic impacts on your overall health and vitality. Okay, go ahead and switch to the next one. Sweet. All right, let's talk about the spleen meridian. Spleen meridian. If you've ever touched the inside of your shin, so if this is your shin bone, right behind it is the inside. So there's the soleus muscles right on the backside, but also your tibialis posterior. Not that we need to get too nerdy on these are some muscles sitting in there. If you have pain, which a lot of people have tenderness right on the inside, right behind their shin bone, it's like, God, it just hurts so bad. Well, think about this. If you have immune stress or chronic underlying stress, it can weaken your spleen, which is an immune organ. And if that gets stressed, that can be witnessed in the weakening of the arches, because as the spleen meridian travels down the inside of your leg, it goes into your arch. And if you don't have enough energy going from here down to your feet, and your feet have a nice arch, and then they start collapsing, what happens, if you can see, is my arches collapse. Look what happens to my knees. Okay, my knees come in, and I'm exaggerating for dramatic effect, but as the arches fall, the knees will come in as far as a biodynamic situation. That'll affect the hips, which can affect the low back, and everything up above that. So spleen can have issues with parasites. It can be just general immune stress. It can be chronic unrelenting stress, which weakens the immune system. Interestingly enough, there's a strong combination between the adrenals and the spleen. So when there's chronic unrelenting adrenal stress, like most people in the United States, what results is a weakened spleen, which is a major immune organ, pulls lymph and fluid off the stomach, recycles your blood cells, your red blood cells, and things like that. So it's a really important organ. Lung meridian. So this one travels down the arm and through the thumb, okay, on this side. Your large intestine comes down this side, but your lung comes down the front side. Well, in Chinese, this is this is the Chinese anatomical position, but if you look at the anatomical man, you're basically standing like this. Okay, Chinese are one step further, bring their arms up. Kind of like when you're going to TSA, if you don't have TSA pre-check, you go through that stupid scanner. Yeah, it's not fun. Save your brain, get TSA pre-check, and don't skip the line. Anyway, public service announcement. So coming down here, so you can have thumb pain, right? Now, interestingly enough, we don't need to go too far back, but spleen is shame. Government vessel, conception vessel don't have too many things related to it. Liver is anger and frustration, territorial conflicts and things like that. So when you think about the lungs is fear of failure, fear of being exposed and things like that. So whether you have an neuroemotional stress related to that or not, if you don't have any issues with the lungs, people that are asthmatics, having had asthma in the past, I no longer have it, over 30 years, I guarantee you I had plenty of pain in this part of my body, okay? And who knows, it was a combination of diet and neuroemotional stress and all kinds of other garbage. But needless to say, I'm fortunate enough to not have that anymore. But the thumb, if you have pain in your thumb, could be a combination of fear of being unable to oppose someone. So thumb, fear, up the arm, stuff like that. Everybody's got a little different mix. Our job is to decipher that for you so you don't have to think about it. And okay, let's go to the next one. That's all right, we don't need that anymore. As I mentioned, large intestine meridian. So it starts at the nose, comes down through your SCM, your sternocleidomastoid mastoid, and then basically it comes down the back side. So a lot of people can get like rotator cuff. It can be confused, like upper trap pain here can start here. You know, I got a little bit of tension there. That's, I don't know if that's my muscle from working out or if that's my large intestine talking to me. So that would be for someone else to tell me, because it's never a good idea to be on your own doctor. So think about that. Don't ever try to treat yourself. It doesn't usually end up well. So that comes on the back side of the arm, down here, and on this side of the thumb. So once again, in Chinese medicine, large intestine is a lot about control. In neuroemotional, like QNRT land, we talk about deep down dirty issues, fear of being exposed, feeling defective and things like that. That can be the large intestine. So it's part of the bowel, it's part of the ugly issues, it's part of like when we've been made to feel by someone in our life like we're less than something. It just depends on what you are. So keep in mind you could have, so with the lung meridian you could have elbow pain, you could have large intestine elbow pain, chronic tension in the muscles in the forearm, once again thumb pain, things like that. The heart meridian is really, technically it comes down inside here. That's why we recommend people only wear their wristwatch on their right wrist, because anything with a battery can mess up your pericardium, your heart meridian. So it runs down the inside here, it comes right across over to your heart. Really important muscle, really important function, because if that stops working, party's over. So keep that in mind. That can cause pinky pain here. It can cause throbbing. So if you ever get gnawing pain, and then obviously you can get pain in your chest, pain in your clavicles, can come up into your jaw. There's a lot of pain associated with the heart. You can get heart palpitations and stuff like that. Heart is about overwhelm. So a lot of people have heart palpitations, preventricular contractions, and all this other arrhythmia is what it's called, because they're overwhelmed, stressed, right? So the heart, of course, its job is to transmit blood, but blood is energy, right, and fuel and resources out to our body. So if our heart's pounding, and because our brain's constantly in fight or flight, and it's not getting the right signals, like 1 minute stress, 1 minute's calm, and all of a sudden like you're popping between calm and stressed, calm and stressed, calm and stressed, and most people are staying in stressed, that can cause a palpitation and irregularity in the heartbeat, as an example. Okay, go on to the next one. Sweet. So let's go small intestine now. That comes and can be confusing depending on where your symptoms are. It can start up in the upper trap and come down into your rotator cuff. And if you go along, this is called the spine of your shoulder blade or your scapula. Just below this bony ridge here, there's usually a really tender spot on everybody you touch. And it's a trigger point in your small intestine meridian. So when you start pressing on that and digging in there, you can pretty much make anybody jump. Because most of us have some type of irritation from eating cooked food, because we were originally wired and geared up digestively for raw food, but then we started cooking food, and now our stomachs and digestive systems cannot handle any raw food for the most part, and we get all bloaty and gassy and all kinds of fun stuff. But pain on the back side of the shoulder blade, and then of course down once again on the back side of the arm, and then out the pinky. That's your small intestine. In Chinese medicine, we're talking about acceptance, anger and frustration from QNRT, things like that. Keep that in mind. But think about foods. If you're eating cooked food, you need to have a digestive enzyme. We use Digeszyme from US Enzymes, and we support the stomach with HCl-zyme from US Enzymes again. Sometimes you might have leaky gut, might show up in your skin. You might have SIBO, bacteria that's supposed to be in your colon, got up into your small intestine. You could have junky bile coming into your small intestine, affecting that. There's a bunch of different things that can cause problems in your small intestine. But if you have all of a sudden this random pain on the outside of your arm or in the back side of your shoulder up into your trap, it's not random, right? If you haven't been, I always joke, like for people with thyroid problems, if you haven't been hit in the throat with a hockey puck or been kicked or slapped or punched or whatever it is in your throat, it's usually not the thyroid, okay? Unless you've been radioactively iodined and they've tried to kill off your gland, stuff like that. Just like the small intestine, if you haven't been injured from the outside, it's coming from the inside. So in the absence of trauma, things break down on the inside before the outside, just as a general rule of thumb. All right, bladder meridian, that runs down basically the spine, okay? So if you go right down both sides of the spine, that is your bladder meridian. It also runs down the back side of your leg, basically right down. You might even think of it as tracking the sciatica, which is fascinating, right? And that comes down the back of the calf, right down the middle, and then it goes on the outside. So I know it's really hard to explain this kind of stuff, but it comes down the outside of the ankle, okay? So bladder meridian, think about inability to assert yourself, think about your boundaries being pushed, somebody's overstepping their boundaries with you, or alternatively, you're not setting a boundary with people. And that can be energetically, that can be verbally, physically, whatever it might be. That can affect you. Let's see, what else is there? Neurogenic bladder. The bladder can be irritated from the kidneys because, of course, the kidneys dump down the ureters into the bladder. So the bladder's rarely, again, unless in the absence of trauma, it's really the problem. You can get biofilms on the inside of the bladder, which we use like cranzyme and or alicidin or C-zyme to break up these biofilms or these bacterial, these mucus layers that are inside of your bladder, and these bugs can kind of hide in there when they're imbalanced. But again, if you didn't have any trouble asserting yourself or setting your boundaries, you probably wouldn't have any problems with your bladder, just as a rule of thumb. All right, let's go on to the next one. Fabulous. The kidney meridian. All right. Raise your hand if you've had low back pain sometime in your life. Pretty much everybody, right? It's probably one of the most common complaints for a lot of people. Kidneys are all about stress, unexpected stress, shocks and surprises, feeling a lack of support, lack of respect, feeling unsupported, not being heard, abandonment, rejection. There's all kinds of fun stuff that go along with the kidneys or in that general area. And the kidney meridian, so you want to appreciate, like, we use a point kidney 1, I believe it, kidney 27 is the reflex point up here. We use that for checking to see if you're neurologically switched or not. So if I challenge these 2 points, then all of a sudden you're rock solid. If that goes weak as a kitten, and kinesiology is always on off 1 0. If we challenge that and you go weak, that means you're backwards. Your body's going to give me information that's the actual opposite of what I need to know, because somehow you got switched. And that could be a structural, biochemical, energetic, or emotional. It can be an allergy, a toxin, interference, filter infection, or some type of neuroemotional stress and stuff like that. So once again, your body has all the clues and all the information it needs to heal. Our job is to decipher that information, and I as a doctor need to teach you, because doctor means teacher, teach you how to help yourself and empower you with this kind of information specifically related to your case so that you understand what to do from now on. So we can give you fish today, and you're going to eat today. We can teach you how to fish, and then you can eat for the rest of your life. So that's our job, is to take the broken wing, heal it, and release you back into the wild. It's not, stay here for life. No, the cool thing is you go off back out in the wild, and if something happens, you come back and you go back out. It's a revolving door because you want to live your life to the fullest, and that's our job, is to help you get there. Okay. We talked about the heart meridian, pericardium meridian. Similar over here, comes down the inside of the arm, so you can have, a lot of people have elbow challenges here. That can be coming from stress off the heart. Usually it's overwhelm, but people can get inflammation in their heart from dietary lifestyle choices and stuff like that. But ultimately, if you start having trigger fingers in your middle finger, that can be coming from your pericardium. Okay, pericardium is the casing your heart sits in, shall we say. So once again, overwhelm, things like that. It's really what the heart's related to with pericardium. Go ahead and switch up. Fabulous. All right. Last but not least is the triple warmer. It's like the confluence of rivers, right, in your energetic system. And so that comes similar to the gallbladder meridian. Starts here at the eye, comes back, and it's almost like you had a headset on, which wrapped over your ear. And then it's almost like, you've ever seen Spock? He's got that pointy ear. So it shoots up and then comes back down, and then comes down the trap. And then it's going to come down over the shoulder and then back down, similar to the small intestine meridian, but it's going to come down the back of the arm, and it's going to come out the finger. Okay. So pericardium, again, relating to the heart, overwhelm and things like that, endocarditis and stuff like that, inflammation of the heart. But again, you got to figure out where's the imbalance in the microbiome, why is there inflammation, why would the body be holding fluid on the heart and things like that. It's not enough to just say, oh, here's your diagnosis. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of ditching the diagnosis. In fact, we're going to have to start a podcast or something. I don't know. It's got to happen, because there's so many diagnoses out there that are diagnoses of exclusion, and it's okay to take a diagnosis, but take it and say, it's like going to buy a used car. You want to get the information and say, thank you for that information. Now I'm going to figure out what I got to do about it, rather than just saying, here's your diagnosis, here, take this pill, and we'll manage that symptom. And then if you've ever played whack-a-mole at the arcade, where one pops up and you smack that one down, and another one pops over here and you smack that one and down and over, you're just playing drugs for symptoms and that paradigm. I lived it for more than 3 decades, and because I didn't know any better, nobody could teach me, and they weren't offering that information. So I said, thank you very much, no thank you. I feel like I can learn and help heal myself, and that's what I'm obsessed with now, and that's what our team is obsessed with here. My job is to teach you. Their job is to be your pit crew and get you all the success tools you need, things like that, and that's how we operate here. So if you're looking for a team to support you and looking for people to teach you how to help yourself instead of just giving you something to get rid of a symptom, well, then you're in the right place. And you guys are already the smart ones. You're ahead of the game. You're part of our tribe, and you're beating the drum, trying to help other people understand, like, look, you don't have to suffer unnecessarily. Like, I did it for over 3 decades. I mean, my mom suffered for 4+ decades before she passed on. It's just stupid, okay, in my opinion. People are entitled to suffer if they want to, but if you have raised your hand and said, I am sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, and I don't want to suffer anymore, then you just come on strolling right in here, and we'll get you fixed up, teach you what you need to know to help yourself, and send you back on your way. That's what we're dedicated to, and that's what we're here for. So I certainly hope this has been helpful as far as getting a general idea. Vanessa? Okay, yeah. Vanessa reminded me to tell you that the holiday season is upon us, and people are booking out 4 weeks in advance, so we are already into mid-December and probably going to be closing out the year pretty quick. We have a little bit of modified holiday schedule. We'll be closed the 25th, 6th, and 7th after the Navidad holiday, and we'll be open the following week. We'll only be closed on the national holiday for New Year's Day. But needless to say, with brain training, neurofeedback, with QNRT, with chiropractic brain balancing, with PEMF, it's just bananas around here. So make sure you get your spot on the calendar so you can get what you need. Bring your family, friends and family. If you remember, we have every month you can bring in somebody. Is it every month? Once a month? Okay, once a month you can bring someone in and expose them to PEMF therapy. Other than that, you're always welcome to bring any one of your loved ones, your friends and family with you. We have people sitting on their appointments all the time because they're curious and maybe they're just hanging out and say, hey, you should come with me and check this out. Come check it out. Bring your friends and family. See if they want to hang out. Now, we'll give them something to do, help them learn something about themselves. We always engage them and ask them questions about themselves too. So, awesome. We'll be back next week. Absolutely, next week. I'm trying to think if we're traveling at all. Nope, I'm not traveling, not next week. So we'll be back next week with some more Wednesday Wellness Minutes, fun facts, factoids, useful information for you. If you have something that this sparked your interest and said, hey, I really want to know more about that, put it in the comments below. Give us a thumbs up if you thought it was great. Give us feedback if you thought there was something we can improve on. I will always try to speak slower, but there's a ton of information that I try to get in a very short period of time, so Anissa doesn't have to stay here all night with me. Okay? She wants to go home. We're going home. So I'll just sign off for right now. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you next week.